Hello, welcome back to my decidedly intermittent summer series of videos called Best Movie Summer Ever. I asked myself a question before May got underway, and that was, could the summer of 2018, be the biggest movie summer ever? And if not, what is? So I did a little bit of research on previous summer movie seasons, and I want to talk about some of them. This episode, I'm going to be talking about the summer of 2008, a very, very, very big summer movie season indeed. Let's start off with The Dark Knight, shall we? The Dark Knight is arguably the most acclaimed comic book movie of all time. In the dominant genre, the comic book movie is basically the dominant genre, it would seem, or at least the dominant subgenre. In terms of box office and popularity, everybody wants in the comic book movie game, everybody wants in the shared universe game, because of the success of these particular films. The Dark Knight was much more anticipated than Batman Begins, because at that time Christopher Nolan wasn't really a known commodity, and neither was Christian Bale for that matter. So it was like a new guy making a Batman movie with a new guy playing Batman. There was, some caution. It was a hit movie, and it was well regarded, but I think in the intervening years its fan base grew when it was watched on home video and on TV, when it was broadcast, and so people were primed for another Christopher Nolan, Christian Bale Batman movie in the summer of 2008, 3 years later, added to which you had Heath Ledger as the Joker, a rather legendary performance from an actor that passed away just a few months before the movie came out. It was big. It was absolutely massive. Not counting Avatar, which came out in the at the very end of 2009, The Dark Knight had the highest domestic gross of any film, that would be United States and Canada, of any film during that decade, the Aughties. It was the top grossing domestic box office of the decade. Spider-Man 3 was the top grossing internationally, but yeah, The Dark Knight was big, and it was very, very highly acclaimed, of course. It missed out on a Best Picture nomination, and the outrage over that perhaps prompted the Academy that manages the Oscars to expand its Best Picture category. And now they've done that again. This year they're planning on doing it for the 2020 ceremony, and they're going to have two Best Picture categories, one for critical darlings, the other for box office hits or popular films or films with a certain amount of gross or a certain budget or something like that. We don't really know, but yeah, they're still trying to get more viewers in, despite the fact that the Oscar ratings has really sort of exceeded that of a lot of other live broadcasts. It's still not good enough, so they want to get those Avatar numbers in there, the people that tune into the Oscars because Avatar was nominated for Best Picture. Anyway, getting a little off track, Dark Knight, hugely influential, very, very big impact. And the only thing that really, from that summer, that comes close to the kind of impact that it had was, of course, a movie that came out at the beginning of that summer called Iron Man. Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. making a big comeback with his own superhero franchise. And wouldn't you know it, some people at the time were aware of it, but most people weren't. This was going to be the start of something absolutely huge, the start of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which, as of right now, is the top-grossing franchise in cinema history. It exceeds the nearest runner-up by about 50%. I think almost twice as much. And this, of course, is down to the fact that they've released 19 movies within the space of 10 years. 20 now, counting Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's the one that started it all. Jon Favreau is the director, of course. And Robert Downey Jr. was well liked, but had kind of an iffy reputation as far as his reliability because of his drug issues and what have you. Now he's king of the mountain pretty much. Can't think of too many other actors that are as dependable for box office hits as him, except maybe Dwayne Johnson. And Tom Cruise, of course. Tom Cruise, was always like a name. When The Mummy didn't do so well, that was, of course, disappointing, but few people would probably blame that on him, unless, of course, they just felt maybe it's too much of an action movie. Anyway, getting off topic again. Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie, very, very big. A couple other very big movies that came out that summer were WALL-E, Pixar's latest film, which is a fantastic movie, my favorite movie of that year. You know, quite a thrilling experience. And also Mamma Mia. Mamma Mia was kind of a surprise in that it made as much money as it did. Yeah, apparently the musical's well liked. The music by ABBA is very well liked, and it just got a sequel this last summer. So good for those guys. They did very, very well. A few other movies that came out in 2008. We had the first Kung Fu Panda movie, and there's been 3 of them so far. Big animated film. We had Sex and the City, which was a huge hit. Very much geared towards a female audience, pretty much. It's a spin-off of the television series, of course, which I didn't see that much of, but I did see the film, and I liked it very much. I thought it was really good. What else? Vicky and Cristina, Barcelona came out that summer. One of Woody Allen's more acclaimed films, with Penelope Cruz winning an Oscar, also Javier Bardem, Rebecca Hall, and Scarlett Johansson in that. Very, very well-liked movie. Also, some really, really big... and I forgot Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones finally came back after 19 years. His previous movie was in 1989, Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade, and apparently it wasn't the last one because he came out for The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which is, I think most people would regard that as the worst of the Indiana Jones movies. But it was a big hit. Lots of people went to see it. And then there's Hancock. Hancock, which is a movie that I don't really care for all that much, although I like the concept, with Will Smith being a sort of indigent superhero guy who's got a big drinking problem and causes too much destruction when he tries to save people and stop bad guys. So publicity guy comes along, Jason Bateman, and tries to give him an image makeover. Charlize Theron's also in the movie as well, of course. Wasn't crazy about the movie when I saw it. Don't think it's that good of a movie. It's just like very kind of... It's not that great. It's not well written, really, well structured. And there's a whole bunch of subplots that were cut apparently, which may have made a difference there. Also, some really big disasters. Speed Racer from the Wachowskis, based on the anime or the comic book series, and it's regarded in retrospect as something very admirable visually. You know, it's just a visually very stylish and different kind of movie, but didn't end up doing all that well when it came out. Then you had The Happening, the continued decline of M. Night Shyamalan. He had done Lady in the Water previously, and then The Happening was also really, really bad. I think. I did see it, actually. I don't remember a lot about it, other than the fact that I think maybe just being calm was the thing that stopped the plague from happening. I don't know. Anyway, Mark Wahlberg and Zooey Deschanel, I think, were the main characters in that. Yeah, didn't do very well at all, and people hated it, and then The Last Airbender came out a little later, and people hated that even more. That's another Shyamalan film. And then we had The Love Guru, which was Mike Myers' attempt at creating a new character and a new franchise for film, and that didn't work out very well at all. People hated it. People didn't think it was funny. Jessica Alba and Justin Timberlake were in that as well, but they got out pretty much unscathed from that. It was mostly Mike Myers. And he's since become a fictional game show host. And he's also grabbed like small supporting roles in little movies as well. He was in a movie with Margot Robbie and Simon Pegg recently, but it was just like kind of a minor supporting role. I couldn't even finish the movie. I was so bored by it. What's it called? Tenement, maybe? No, not Tenement. It's a one-word title. I can't even remember the title. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, so that was 2008. Huge, huge, huge summer for movies. My next video is going to be on 2011. So let me talk a little bit briefly about the 2 years that came in between. 2009, you had Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which was massive. It was like the 6th Harry Potter movie. You had Ice Age 3. You had Pixar's Up, which got a Best Picture nomination due to the expanded category, probably. And the first Hangover movie. There were 3 Hangover movies with Bradley Cooper and Zach Galifianakis and Ed Helms. And the first one was a huge hit, so they made 3 more that I don't think anybody likes as nearly as much as the first one. You had Star Trek. Star Trek, the relaunch of the franchise with a brand new cast playing the classic characters. That worked out pretty well. They got 3 movies out of that, and they're all really good, I think, except for maybe the second one. Second one really doesn't work all that well. Yeah. So they're all really good except for one, which isn't that good at all. Sorry about that. Then you had District 9, another beneficiary of the expanded Best Picture category. It was nominated. Neil Blomkamp, the South African filmmaker, and of course Charlotte Copley as the main character, dealing with alien immigrants in South Africa and Johannesburg. What else? The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock, another big hit. Then you had some movies which, and also the second Transformers movie, which is the highest grossing of the Transformers movies, I think, or at least it had the biggest opening weekend, but is very highly regarded as a terrible movie. Highly regarded as a terrible movie, yes, of course. In the pantheon of terrible movies, it ranks way up there because of racist caricatures. Yeah, not much to say about that. I didn't even see it. I mean, I might have caught some of it on cable, but yeah, I skipped that one. I've only seen 2 of the Transformers movies in the theater. The first one and the third one, because the third one takes place in Chicago. Some big disappointments as well. X-Men Origins Wolverine, not nearly up to the standards of the other X-Men movies. Terminator Salvation, with Christian Bale playing John Connor and... what's his face from Avatar? Forgot his name, sorry. You had Public Enemies, which was a John Dillinger film from Michael Mann. Michael Mann's not really taken too well to digital photography. His films look really ugly compared to other movies that are shot digitally. Johnny Depp played Dillinger, of course. Not that great of a movie, and just hard to watch, actually. Katherine Heigl had a summer movie called The Ugly Truth with Gerard Butler. Didn't turn out so well. It's not very well liked critically, and her reputation continued to sink. You had the first of the G.I. Joe movies. There turned out to be 2 of them. And not a lot of carryover with the cast, unfortunately. I think maybe you had the guy Ray Park was the one holdover from from both movies, who was in both movies. Other than that, the cast was almost entirely different in the second one. A lot of people didn't really like G.I. Joe that much, the first G.I. Joe movie in 2009, because of all the CGI. Me, I thought it was a lot of fun. There you go. And you had Inglourious Basterds. Inglourious Basterds was not a disaster. It was actually a really big hit and got a Best Picture nomination for Quentin Tarantino, and introduced all of us to Christoph Waltz, who has never been better than in that one movie. He's been in other movies since then, but kind of does the same thing. He sort of seemed like kind of a one-trick pony, kind of like M. Night Shyamalan. Not to say that he's bad, he's just seems to play all the characters the same way. So there you go. That is 2009. And 2010 was a miserable summer for me. There were so many movies that came out that I just didn't want to see, and finally I just went to see Salt just because I was sick of staying home. And Salt was the movie with Angelina Jolie as the spy, and that one really wasn't that good. But the top movies I liked very, very much. Some of my favorite movies of that year, Toy Story 3 and Inception from Christopher Nolan. Both those movies are fantastic, and they were big grossers, so good on them. Also, the first Despicable Me movie came out in 2010, and they've had not only 2 sequels, but also the spin-off Minions, and now the Minions are like the icon of the animation company, Illumination, that produced them, along with some others. So those were the top grossing movies. Then you had some rather large disappointments. You had Robin Hood, starring Russell Crowe and directed by Ridley Scott. Nobody really cared about that movie as far as I know. Nobody ever talks about it or writes about it anymore. Just, you know, kind of a very sort of self-serious version of the Robin Hood story. Then you had Prince of Persia, which is based on a video game. Didn't do very well, and a lot of people accused of whitewashing because the main characters are played by white people. Sex and the City 2 was a huge bomb, and everybody hated it. Killers, another Katherine Heigl comedy that was probably, you know, disparaged mostly for her character, who is not in any way a feminist icon. That was with Ashton Kutcher. Jonah Hex is a comic book movie that was a complete disaster. That's with Josh Brolin as the main character. I think John Malkovich was in that along with Megan Fox. And one other guy who became more famous later. Michael Fassbender was in it. I've never seen it, but I've read that he's in it. Then you had the first of the Grown Ups movies with Chris Rock and Adam Sandler and a few other comedians. They're widely regarded as being just flat-out incompetently made movies. The Last Airbender, as I mentioned before, was an M. Night Shyamalan film that nobody really liked very much. Again, more whitewashing accusations. Eat, Pray, Love with Julia Roberts was a comedy that was based on a book, and not many critics liked the movie. I can't say that I've ever talked to anyone who's ever seen it, so I don't know if it's good or not. I've never seen it. Really have no desire to. And finally, The Expendables. Stallone got together some of his old buddies from 80s and 90s action movies, and for a movie in which a big team movie, and it did well enough to warrant 2 sequels, with Eric Roberts being the villain in the first one, and Mel Gibson was the villain in the third one, and Van Damme, Jean-Claude Van Damme in the second one. So the third one didn't do all that well, but nice little mini franchise there for Stallone. There's a different director for each movie, but yeah, it was his baby. So yeah, that's 2010, and the next video I'll do will be on 2011, which had some really big stuff happening in it. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to check out my Facebook page, the link to that is below, as well as the playlist for all the videos in this series, and I will see you real soon. There's just a couple of videos left, basically. Two more videos that I have planned, and I'll probably do a video on 2018 as well. But this series will be done before the month of August is over, as it is summer-themed series. It transpires and concludes during the summer, just in the nick of time. Thank you very much. I'll see you again real soon. Later.